Three drug dealers responsible for Richmond's worst murder rampage were sentenced to death by a federal jury yesterday. The first time the federal death penalty for drug-related offenses has been used in Virginia, and the second time nationwide. Only one other defendant, a man convicted of a drug-related slaying in Alabama, has been sentenced to death under a capital federal drug statute enacted in 1988. Federal juries determine sentences only in death penalty cases, and the sentences cannot be changed by a judge. Described by Assistant U.S. Attorney Howard C. Vick Jr. as mass murderers, Richard Tipton, 22, Corey Johnson, 24, and James H. Rohn Jr., 26, headed a Richmond gang that killed 11 people in 6 weeks in an effort to expand its turf and quiet people suspected of giving information to police. Rowdy Nation TV, welcome back to the channel, guys. Do me a favor, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so anytime I drop a video, you guys can be notified. So let's get to it. In February 1993, James Rohn, Corey Johnson, and Richard Tipton were convicted in the Eastern District of Virginia for an array of criminal activity, including several capital murders arising out of the drug trafficking operations in and near Richmond. Each received at least one death sentence for his crimes, plus various terms of imprisonment. Tipton, Rohn, and Corey Johnson were principal partners in a substantial drug trafficking conspiracy that lasted from 1989 through July of 1992. The conspiracy operations began in Trenton, New Jersey, where Johnson and Tipton, both from New York City, became members. Now, it always says the conspiracy, so I think I'm just going to refer to it as Tipton and Johnson. You know, that's what they refer to in the legal terms as the conspiracy. So, in August of 1990, Tipton and Johnson expanded the operations to Richmond, Virginia, where Rohn joined the conspiracy in November of 1991. The Trenton-based operation came to an end on June 4th, 1991, when police confiscated a large quantity of crack cocaine and firearms. In late 1991, Tipton and Johnson's operation were expanded from the Central Gardens area of Richmond to a second area in the Richmond town called Newtown. Now, during the period of the conspiracy operations, its partners, including appellants, obtained wholesale quantities of powdered cocaine from suppliers in New York City. Now, they got the cocaine, cooked it up, and as you know, they traveled back to Virginia and they distributed it to about 30 to 40 low-level street dealers. Now, typically, Tipton and Johnson and the other people in this conspiracy operation, they took like 2/3 of the proceeds, you know, from the 30 or 40 street dealers, right? Now, over a short period of time, in 1992, Tipton, Corey Johnson, and Rohn were variously implicated in the murders of 10 people, persons within the Richmond area, all in relation to this drug trafficking operation, either because, the victims were suspected of, some type of treachery, stealing, in this type of world, people, they steal, and it seems like any petty offense that these guys may have thought you have committed against them, they would hold you responsible by taking your head off. They'd kill you. So on January 4th, 1992, Tipton and Rohn drove Douglas Talley. He was somebody who worked for him. He was an underling. He had messed up in a drug transaction. They drove him to the end of to the south side of Richmond. Once there, Rohn grabbed Talley from the back, while Tipton stabbed him and attacked him. And they attacked him. They said that this attack lasted like 3 to 5 minutes, and they stabbed him over 84 times in his head, his neck, and upper body. And of course, he killed him, right? So, on the evening of January 13th, 1992, Tipton and Rohn went to an apartment of Douglas Moody. Now, he's a suspected a rival of a drug dealer, who's trying to come up just like they were. Tipton shot Moody twice in the back, after he jumped out of a window and they chased him down and he stabbed him with a military knife, right? Stabbed him 18 times, killing him. This man actually jumped out the window trying to get away from these guys. Like I said before, that drug game, and this is back, like I said, this story right here comes to us back in the 90s, man. And these brothers, you see, they had came down from New York. They done went down from New York to to Trenton, New Jersey. Now they're in Virginia. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably the profits there. It's probably a larger profit area there. Make more money than you would make in New York City. In New York City, the competition is not as fierce down in Virginia, as it probably was in New York City, right? And these brothers brought that big street time New York mentality to this small city. So that's crazy. So let's get back into it. On the night of January 4th, 1992, Roan and Corey Johnson and a third person retrieved a bag of guns that they had in an apartment earlier that day. Roan then located Peyton Johnson, another drug dealer that was trying to come up just like them. They located him, at a bar. Now, shortly after Roan left the bar, Corey Johnson entered with another person and fatally shot Peyton. Shot Peyton Johnson with a semi-automatic weapon on January 29th. Now check this out. That was just January 14th. I hope you guys are listening to these dates, right? Because all these murders happened within a span of only like about 6 weeks. On January 29th, 1992, Rome pulled his car around the corner out of an alley, got out of the vehicle, approached Lewis Johnson, whom Johnson thought had threatened him while he was acting as a bodyguard for another drug dealer. And so he shot him. Corey Johnson and co-conspirator Lance Thomas then got out of Roan's car and began firing at Lewis Johnson. As Lewis Johnson lay on the ground, either Corey Johnson or Thomas shot him twice in the back of the head at close range. And of course, he died from all of these gunshot wounds that he sustained. These guys, man, right here, they were truly, like, I would call this like a spree killing, On the evening of February 1st, 1992, Corey Johnson, Lance Thomas were told that Roan had gone to the apartment of Toric Brown, with whom Roan had been having trouble. Johnson and Thomas armed themselves with semi-automatic weapons and went to the apartment, where they joined Roan outside. Now the three men knocked on Brown's door and asked his half-sister, Martha McCoy, if Brown was there. Now she said, yeah, he here, so she went and, got him. Brown came to the door, and Corey Johnson and Roan and Thomas opened fire with semi-automatic weapons, killing Brown and critically wounding McCoy, which was his sister. Man, these dudes was wild and straight out, right? They doing too much. In late January 1992, after being threatened by Corey Johnson for not paying for a supply of crack cocaine, Dorothy Armstrong went to live with her brother, Bobby Long. She already knew she was in trouble. She already knew the reputation of this dude. Now, why would you do that in the beginning? But I guess when you own that stuff, you know what I mean? It'll make you do some crazy stuff. But messing with these brothers right here sounds like was the wrong thing to do. Let's get back to it. On February 1st, Corey Johnson learned from Jerry Gators the location of Long's house. Thereafter, Tipton and some unidentified young guy picked up Gators and Corey Johnson, who were then driven by Tipton to a house where the group, got the heat. After dropping off the unidentified third party, the group proceeded to Long's house. Upon arriving at Long's house, Corey Johnson and Gators got out, went up to the house. Tipton waited in the car. Corey Johnson and Gators went to the front door. When Long opened up the door, Corey Johnson fired in, killing Dorothy Armstrong and Anthony Carter. Bobby Long, he fled out the front door, but he was fatally shot by Corey Johnson in the front yard. Straight killers, yo. They straight getting down for theirs on this, but look what it's going to cost them, though. In the early February 1992, Corey Johnson began to suspect Linwood Childs, who was cooperating with the police. They suspected of him of cooperating with the police, right? I think these dudes is probably like paranoid now, right? They done did all these killings, right? You can't even tiptoe around these dudes right now, man. They think you doing something wrong. You can't even probably use the phone right. Like, who you calling? You know what I'm saying? They probably tripping with all these murders they done committed. Crazy, son. But check this out. On February 19th, 1992, Johnson borrowed Valerie Butler's car and arranged to meet with Childs. That night, Childs, Curtis Thorne, and sisters Priscilla and Gwen Green met Corey Johnson and drove off together in Childs' station wagon. Childs parked in the car in the alley, and Tipton soon drove in behind in another car, got out, came up alongside the station wagon with Tipton standing by Corey Johnson. He told Childs place his head on the steering wheel, and then he shot him twice in the back of the head. Man, dude, why would you even meet this dude if you know that he's in that you done some crazy whatever you done did? I'm pretty sure you knew their reputation, right? I ain't meeting these cats nowhere. But then again, that's the game, and we don't get down like that. Additional shots were fired, killing Thorne and critically wounding both of the Green sisters. Wrong place, wrong time, ladies. You know what I'm saying? The autopsy report indicated that Thorne had been hit by bullets fired from two different directions. Tipton was charged with capital murder for 8 of these killings. Talley, Moody, Lewis Johnson, Long, Carter, Armstrong, and Thorne, and Childs. Now, Lewis Johnson, I'm not going to repeat all those names again about, because all 3 of them were involved in some kind of, with these murders, because they were in concert together, all 3 of them, right? So I believe Tipton had 8, was charged with 8 murders. I mean, not Tipton, I'm sorry. Corey Johnson was charged with 8 murders. Tipton was charged with 6 murders. And James Rohn was charged with 3 murders. And altogether, within a 6-week span, these brothers killed like 11 people. So the jury convicted Corey Johnson on 7 of the 8 murders that he was charged with. So he was convicted of 7 of the capital murders in which he was charged, right? And Roan, he was charged and convicted of 3 capital murders, right? Now, the district court sentenced Johnson, Tipton, and Roan to death in accordance with the jury's recommendations and imposed various sentences of imprisonment upon each of the defendants for several non-capital counts, right? Now, following a penalty hearing of the capital murder counts, the jury recommended that Corey Johnson be sentenced to death on all of the 7 murders of which he had been convicted, that Tipton be sentenced to death for 3 of the 6 murders of which he was convicted, that Roan be sentenced to death for 1 of the 3 murders that he was convicted of, right? So, Corey Johnson's execution would be the 12th execution during the Trump administration, and it would be carried out weeks after he found out that he had the coronavirus. That's when Trump reinstated the executions for federal inmates. I don't know if you guys remember that, because before Trump came to office, a lot of these federal inmates, it had been a long time before a federal inmate had been put to death. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, I mean, you have to pay for your crimes regardless who came and actually, gave that final order to carry that sentence out. This guy hurt a lot of people, man, and that's what happens when you out in the street. You don't really think about it. You don't really think about the damage that you're causing to all these other people. So, yeah, he was like the 12th inmate that died under President Trump's reign. So, this is what he had to say. His last words was. His final words, he apologized to the families of the people that he killed. And he said, I hope you will find peace. And he said that he had been blind and stupid, and he was looking for shortcuts while he was out on the streets. And he said, I'm not the same man that I was back then. You know what I'm saying? And I probably believe that you're not. I mean, it's probably 20 years later, But I mean, 20 something years later, but still, you killed 7 people. That's a lot of people, right? Now, as far as the other 2 guys, after Trump got out of office, of course, Joe Biden took over, and they put a halt back on these executions about, something about the drugs that they're using are not safe. So the other 2 guys are still sitting on death row. I'm not sure when they time or when they number might come up, but you know, like Beretta said, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. If you can't pay, we all are responsible. And just killing 7 people, man. Just these guys kill 11 people within a 6 week span. I don't know what was wrong with these people. Maybe they thought they was just above the law. I don't know if they maybe was using their own product, maybe if they were paranoid, or just once you start killing like that and you want to be respected on the street. I guess that comes with it with a big major drug distribution network that they was using, right? But like I said before, that's all I got for you. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Leave me a comment in my comment section. Click the like or click the dislike button. Just let me know how I did. Rowdy Nation TV. Click the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so anytime I drop a video, you guys can be notified. We out.